Eucalyptus tolerana. It's a it's just been reclassified as Corymbia tolerana, which is a flowering gum. Here they go. They're not going to be happy now.
I'm moving.
There's Kadaji. Oh.
I don't think it is.
Yep.
This is all Kadaji up here. Oh, look, a pretty beetle. This is what they use the Kadaji for. See, there's a metallic beetle in there. Entombed.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Great, isn't it? This one is just going to fall. Look at that.
Just standing here, is it right?
Mostly rubbish. There's a little
Oh,
bit
sorry, I'm filming now. If you
Oh,
can just stay
a
with me.
little bit of pollen and honey. That one they're still filling up. That pollen pot. Yeah. So you can see what a disaster that is inside there.
That's a mess.
It's a mess. Really is a mess. That's actually, they've been in here, I'd say, they've been here in a good 30 years.
I reckon 20 to 30.
It's for the size of the log and the thickness of this bitumen that they've built. That's been a long time in that log. See that? See the pink in there, the pink resin? That's bloodwood. One of their favourite trees for collecting resin from is bloodwood. Rubbish. Get out in your ear. I love getting in your ear. So this is all that. That's all Kadaji, all that sticky stuff. See that? They cannot incorporate Kadaji resin into their hive. They can incorporate everything else, but Kadaji resin they don't. So they put that in different pockets around the place, and then that's used to for their pest protection. Their pest.
Is it vital to have that in an area where they live?
Sorry?
If they don't have one near their hive,
No.
is it vital?
No. You do not want Kadaji.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Kadaji came from a small pocket in far north Queensland, right? And the councils found it. The councils found it and gave it away to everyone. Planted them out as street trees, and because they didn't know that the native bee spreads the seed. And it's the only insect that actually spreads the seed from the Kadaji. So this is all. Yeah, I thought there was one in there. Yeah, he'd be having a good old feed. Not that he's affected the hive that much. Look at the bees. They love me.
Yeah, I think I've been tagged too, Dave.
Have you? See, most people wouldn't be able to take this, but I've been doing it so many damn years. Get out of me eye. No, they're not happy. They will be happy once they're in the new box. This is shocking stuff.
That's where the log was. So
There's so much Kadaji in here. It's incredible.
That's the
Specimen,
ghost
I mean,
one.
it's just,
You're in their flight path.
it's covered.
That's really good too.
It is. See, being that thick, they've been in there a long time.
What do you do? He got
Look at this stuff. They've been building this for a long time. Nothing. Goes in the bin. They cannot reuse it. You cannot melt it down. It is basically like concrete. It's, yeah.
So if they made that, they would have less space.
Yes. Yeah. See how they put all these stores around, right? And then all that bitumen was there. They cannot build outside that bitumen because once it's built, that's it. You know, it's done. Yeah, see, there's no way they could open up that. It's just, you know, it's too hard for them. Yeah, this one you can't. The bitumen you can't. Look, you see there's a lot more Kadaji in here.
Is there any kind of benefit to grinding it up enough to work in your garden? Like I imagine it's got kind of...
Yeah, I usually just, I usually don't get that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually get it, you know, just a little bit, you know, like about that much out of a hive.
Oh wow.
And I usually just chuck that in the garden, you know. But,
Yeah, go.
and honeybees and stuff will try and scavenge from it as well. But look at it, look. See all that seed in there? Having that much seed in a hive is not good for bees. Because when they bring the seed back, the seed keeps exuding resin after it's been put in the hive. So what can happen if they put a lot around the inside of the entrance of the hive, and the entrance in the sun, it'll suffer meltdown because it's very it runs very easy in the sun. So what happens is that it covers up the entrance, and the hive can suffocate from it. So tea seeds are the worst for putting it around the entrance of the hive.
So should you remove it if you...
Yes. Yeah. When you get a build up of it, you need to remove it. And that's all. Look at that. Taking up all space that they could have used. Could have been wet at one stage, yeah. See? Chocolate and stuff, isn't it?
What about TH?
TH are worse. They're the worst for it. What TH do is they're a slightly bigger bee. So what they do is they carry the seed inside the hive. TC, you're right.
Breakfast. Bit of protein.
Happens a bit, that.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll take a deep breath. There he is. Yeah, so and what happens is they put all the resin and the seed around the top if it's in a box, and they build it up to that much. It's only the biggest issue is when they're first rescued like this, and you're putting them in a new box, and they're TH, and you've got a Kadaji tree that's in seed. When you do it, if you do a rescue on a TH or a TC for that matter, because they'll still go for the resin as well. If you do a rescue, it's best off to try and get them away from Kadaji area, or monitor the hive.
So take them to a friend's place in KOA.
Yeah, no, well, there's no Kadaji.
Yeah.
Where there's no Kadaji seed.
And what sort of range are you...
The 500 metres. Yeah. See, that's just there's so much seed in there. There'll be seeds coming up. There'll be little trees coming up here later, in a couple of weeks, where if there's any hit the ground and they come up.
Native to Australia.
They are. They are native to Australia, but
Not Brisbane.
not Brisbane. They come from a little pocket of. They're right down to Sydney. The trees, and it's because the council gave them away to everyone to plant in their gardens, and they used them as street trees.
Yeah, so those are the Kadaji trees.
Yeah. They're currently flowering at the moment.
Oh, what's the flowers like?
They're big, fluffy, white, creamy flowers.
You smell them.
You'll smell them.
They smell really nice. Though.
Smooth
Okay.
green bark.
They smell really nice. Kadajis.
They do, yeah. Now the bees get a hell of a lot out of them when they're flowering, but when they're finished flowering and the seed pods form, that's when the bees have trouble, because they go after the resin inside the seed pods. The seeds stick to them. They don't want to bring the seeds back. They only want to bring the resin back.
So do they come back with a string sometimes from
With
a big flower, a string? Because I've seen ours bringing back something and then they've got this string attached to them that looks like a big flower.
that's strange.
I've seen it a couple of times.
Yeah,
Could be a blossom that got stuck to the
yeah,
resin.
good man. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Blossom that got stuck to the resin, or
Is that the Kadaji tree?
That is it. Yes.
So is every Caribbean Kadaji?
No, just Columbia tolerana. They've only just been reclassed as Columbia. They were Eucalyptus tolerana, but because they're a flowering gum, they've been classed as Columbia, which is your flowering gum. Yeah. Yeah. The other tree that is very, very detrimental is the African tulip tree.
They are kind of a gum.
Sorry? Oh. Yeah, so what I've got to do is methodically get all this stuff out until I get to the brood. I know where the brood is. That's in there. Alright? All in that area there. Okay? And I've got to, I want to get to the brood, and I want to be able to remove the brood as clean as and as intact as possible. So I just got to clean out all this Kadaji, all this batumen before I can get to that. Get out here. They've got pollen in your ear, up your nose. But see, if these were hocking size, I'd have that many of those inside, and they'd be chewing my armpits like there'd be no tomorrow.
So are they also less prone to pests because they're more aggressive? Like,
No.
just a different way of.
Yeah, just a different because they're a slightly bigger bee, and they can carry the seed, whereas TC have a lot more problem carrying the seed. They're a smaller bee. So what you'll find with TC is you'll find a lot of them will visit gardens and your garden and plants and stuff on the way back to the hive. And when they do that, they're trying to get rid of the Kadaji seed off their legs. So you'll see them coming up in your gardens and stuff, little tiny seedlings.
Yeah.
And they've got a furry leaf, big round furry leaf.
Yeah.
The new leaves are pink, reddy pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
With the batumen that you throw in the garden, Danny, would it be advisable to throw a pot around that area where you throw the batumen? Maybe,
try it.
maybe attract bees into
yeah,
the
you
pot.
can try it. Won't work at my
Flower
place.
pot.
I manage all my hives so they don't fight, they don't swarm, they don't, you know. So I never capture fighting swarms. I never have fighting swarms at home. But you see them all the time everywhere else.
So why is that?
The fighting swarm.
Yeah, but
Why isn't you get? Why don't you?
Why?
Get
Because I manage the hives via reduction.
right.
So I don't allow them. Once the hive is big is big enough, and they want to start a new colony, I put a new box on the front of them, and they build in that box instead of going to look for another hive to fight to take over.
Can you tell?
Hive.
Can you tell when they want to move out? Or
Yep.
How do you tell that?
You'll see some bees bringing resin and stuff on their legs, but the very first thing you'll see is you'll see scout bees hanging around, and the scout bees will have resin on their legs and in their jaws, and they bring that over to the bite the eyelid. They love your eyelids because they're very soft and easy to bite, see? And this is why I know these are TC, because they always go for your bloody eyelids.
You got a bit of a brood on this side.
Yeah, it's all there, yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason you're destroying everything, Dean. Just so the bees aren't in some hidden place thinking it's the nest.
Yes. This evicts all the bees as well.
Yeah.
You know, so they're all outside. If you leave a big chunk like that, and there's all these bees inside, they just keep staying in it. They don't move. You know. Even now, all this stuff, I'll probably put all this stuff here into a plastic bag or something for Antonio to take home.
Yeah.
And that way he can spread it out in his garden.
Yeah, I have a big
And if any bees are left in there, they'll go home to the new box. You know, once I get the queen and that in the box, they know where their box is, where their home is, and they'll all follow the queen.
That's where you could do that water thing too.
Sorry?
That water. Put them all in the water.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For the drowning bees. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a big box here and a smaller one as well.
Now, if you're rescuing bees, don't be tempted to rush. Take your time. Make sure you do it right. They're not going to be a problem. You know, if you need a suit, put a suit on. You know, to stop them from annoying you. But whatever you do, take your time when you're doing it.
They're not just going to give up and fly away.
Yeah, they're not going to fly away. They're not going to leave the hive. So they'll always come back for the brood and the queen. Whereas you're looking at honeybees are a totally different ball game. If anyone knows, you know, you've seen how honeybees work and how their management and all the rest of it. When you look at natives and honeybees, they're nothing in common whatsoever. Management is nothing whatsoever in common. See, it's getting softer now because it's getting closer to the inside. So I can start to remove that by hand. And now we're getting close to the involucrum. The brood's in here. Okay, and that's what I'm working towards. But I want to get the brood out, and I want it to be as clean as possible. Yeah, if something happens to the queen in a hive, in one of these hives, the bees will not leave. The hive dies out and the bees go down with the ship. Unfortunately,
If the queen dies.
if the queen dies and it doesn't requeen.
I don't know if I'm good at replacing it.
Honeybees are very, very efficient at replacing queens. Okay, honeybees can replace a queen in 16 days. Right, a worker takes 21. Now with natives, it's the opposite. Queens take 70 days from an egg. 70 days. Okay. Workers take 50 days. So with honeybees, 16 for a queen, 21 for a worker. Opposite, and it's 70 days, 50 days for workers, 70 days for a queen. So if I see one here pointing, if I see a queen cell that's hanging in the middle of the between the advancing front and the retreating front, I'll show you that queen cell, because what happens, you'll get a gap. So what happens? They're making new cells on this level, right? And it's moving up. They're building new cells going up through the brood, right? And all these cells that the queen lays eggs in, the ones above it are hatching. So they hatch and there's a gap between the two, okay? Now what you'll see is you'll see a queen cell and they're always on the very outside of the brood and they'll be hanging on a thread. And all the bees have hatched around them and this queen cell is still hanging there, just about ready to hatch. If you ever split a hive, that's what you need. That queen cell that's just about ready to hatch. So, because you need to be able to get a queen very, very quickly. If it goes over 2 or 3 weeks, you know, they don't survive. Yeah.
So will a queen naturally just be laying queen-specific eggs? Is that how it works?
Sorry?
Will a queen while it's active lay eggs that will turn into a queen?
Yes.
Intentionally?
The nurse bees make the cells. So it's the nurse bees that make the queen cells on the outside of the brood.
Right.
They provision the cell and then she lays an egg in it.
Yeah.
So whether she lays a standard, well, she'll just lay an egg in that cell.
Yeah.
She doesn't realise it's a queen cell.
Oh. So her egg doesn't determine whether it's it's a cell.
Her egg determines whether it's a male or female, whether it's a fertilised or unfertilised egg, male and female. Fertilised is female, unfertilised is a male.
And so if a queen hatches that's competing, she'll kill it?
No, queens don't fight.
So you can have multiple queens?
You can have multiple queens in a native beehive.
Right.
On 7 occasions, I've found 2 queens working on the same hive. Because, and this has only been in the last 2 years that we've been finding 2 queens, right? Because before that, we never knew that it was a possibility.
So you didn't look for it?
So we didn't look for it. If we found a queen, we were happy, that's it, bang. You know, you're not going to go looking for another one, are you? So, but,
Doing that.
yes, but now we know that that's not the case, that they can have more than 1 queen in a hive. You know, before that I always used to find princesses working alongside the queen. So if anything happened to the queen, the princess was there and she could take over, she'd make the take over the hive straight away.
And what's the lifespan of a
See
queen?
where the brood is? It's in this here. Yes, so they're going up and down like that. Yeah, it is. I'll get him out shortly. It's almost there. I just didn't want to break any.
What do you call a particular brood cell?
The cells?
Just like if it's one particular one that you're referring to.
Yep.
Is it a brood cell or is it
Yeah. They're brood cells, yeah. They make a comb, it's a spiral comb. Now I'll turn this upside down. That's resin in there, touch them. Yeah.
So even though, so you'd strip that down,
Yep.
you know, obviously
A little bit more.
even
Yep.
though there's sort of doesn't
No,
seem
no.
to be too much, or
No.
is there some stuff in
What I want to do is get all this stuff out. Yeah. So what it is, it's as clean as possible without all that garbage. All right. So then they can start building from there. Yeah. I'll just clean this up a little bit more, and then people can get some photos. This is the base. What we're looking now is the bottom. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, the entrance to the log was up here, so we know that that's the way it was sitting.
And will they build top to bottom relative to the ground? Like they won't build left to right, you know what I mean?
How do you mean?
So
They always go vertical. These ones go up and down.
from the ground. Yeah. They won't go one side and spiral up.
No, not unless the log's laying the other way.
Falling over.
Yeah. Yeah. So you always know which way the log's been laying by the way the brood's built.
Okay.
What I've found on multiple occasions is I found brood plates going this way, and then you'll find them going that way.
Really?
Yeah, because the log has fallen over.
So they rely on gravity somehow in
They
the
do,
way that.
yes. See, the other thing
Little earrings.
is you cannot see any open pots here. There's no open pots at all. Now see that
Thank you.
see that bottom plate there, how that's really thick
Yep.
and smooth?
Yep.
That's the bottom of the advancing front. So these ones here are cocoons.
Yep.
Right, what they do is the nurse bees make a cell, then they provision the cell, then the queen comes and lays an egg in that cell, and then they close the cell off, right? After 20 to 25 days, the bee pupates, so it eats all the provisions out of that cell, and it starts to turn into a bee. Now when it turns into a bee,
Can you just
it
show that
spins
to
a
the
little
video?
cocoon around itself, inside the cell.
Up. Yep, perfect.
It spins a little cocoon around itself inside the cell. Then the nurse bees come along and they strip the wax off the cell.
Thank
So
you.
what you're left is with the cocoon.
Just the top.
Just the cocoon. Yeah.
So they don't use a cell and just take the top off and lay another one in. They've got to rebuild that whole cell again. Use it
Yes.
to make a new one.
No, they leave the bottom. The very
Just
bottom.
not the
Yep.
sides.
Yeah. So what you'll see is a lot of these little tiny cups.
Yep. Enough
And
to
if,
hold the.
if the queen disappears, you'll see all this empty brood, and it'll all just be little cups stuck together because all the sides are gone, tops are gone. There's just the base sort of thing, you know.
Is there a difference between the white and the orange cells? The different colours, or is it just
No, that's
random?
just random. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just depends on what resin they've had to use at the time, as well.
What's the food they use, Dean? Is it
Sorry?
just honey?
The food.
The food they put in the cells?
They mix pollen with honey and they make bee bread. And that's what they provision the cell with. There's another big bit of Kadaji on the side there. I want to get rid of that. Not Kadaji, resin. That's no good.
I think it's good that they provision the cell first.
See, these you can see a good side view. Still we're upside down.
They have like a royal jelly equivalent.
Yes, basically, yeah. But all bees are fed the same.
Okay.
They just the queen cell gets a lot more provision because it takes her much longer for her to finish eating the cell before she pupates as well.
Can you turn that one around for a minute, then? On the side.
From there.
Is it true that can reopen the cell, extend it to make a queen cell? They've already capped it?
Natives don't.
They don't?
No. I've never found them do it. The Euros do it very efficiently. They do it very, very efficiently. Oh yeah. I just want to get some more of this bitumen off the top so they can build the brood up. Because they can't build it any bigger with this stuff. They have to build it on top.
So why they're probably going out more?
Yes, that's why they're going longer.
If someone managed to destroy the shape of the brood, would you still just chuck in all the brood and sort it out, or only put in the structured bit?
Yeah, you try and put it back together as good as possible,
Yeah.
and they will sort it out.
Okay.
You know, just as long, it's most important that you get it facing up the right way. That's probably the most important part of it, because what happens is the newest cells that have just been built, the bees will drown because they haven't consumed the provisions and it runs up to the top.
How do you know which is the right way up there?
I'll show you the tops of the cells. As soon as I expose the top here, I'll show you the tops.
That's the advancing front.
That's the advancing front, yeah. Now you'll always see, on the top of the brood, you'll see open cells at the advancing front. So, and that's the cells that they're building, that they need the provision. Fulcrum. There's just a little bit more over here.
What's Volcrum?
Fulcrum. That's the sheets of wax that they use.
So does that get hard, or does that usually stay soft?
Sorry?
Does the fulcrum get hard? Or
No,
does
it always stays soft.
stay soft?
Yeah.
And what happens, like with the take-home screw that I've got?
Look at that big bit in there.
But what?
Bloody pants.
Don't know. I think it might be white ants.
See, they've been restricted. Even though the Volcrum that
Fully.
looks pretty big. Look at that. They can't build past that.
Yeah, it's been too much.
So is there a standard size for the brood?
Yeah. Usually, what you'll find in a brood, you'll find it to be when they've got the room in a box.
Yeah.
You'll find it to be 200 long. A good sized brood is 200 long, so it's 200 high, 125 mil around, or 120 to 125 around. See, this has been very restricted in here because it's had all this crap that's been left in the box.
And no matter how
Haven't
big a
been able
box
to
you
build as big as what they should have been able to.
So no matter how big a box you put them in, they can keep to that size for the brood.
No. Yes, they do. Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
just make a massive.
Oh no, I've got a box at home that the brood is actually 300 mil long, 300 mil high, but it has 2 queens in that box. So there's 2 queens maintaining that brood. If it didn't have the 2 queens maintaining that brood, it wouldn't grow that big.
Yeah. What's the life? You know, lifespan of a brood?
A queen, she can live from 3 to 6 years old. 3 to 6 years, depending on the season and what's going on, and the food supplies and all the rest of it. Yep.
And what about the other bees? Do they
90 to 120 days. Yeah. So after they've hatched, it takes an egg 50 days to hatch from it. And they hatch as an adult bee.
Yep.
And then they live for 90 to 120 days from there.
And do you think that's because the queens are looked after and well fed, or and the bees just work themselves ragged, so they don't eat as well?
No, the nurse bees always eat. The males eat because the nurse bees feed the males. Males don't feed themselves,
Yeah.
even within the hive.
Moist as well.
The females always feed them. Sound familiar?
God bless them.
Males don't work. They do not collect pollen. They do not collect nectar. They do not do. They forage. They don't do a thing. You'll find that what they do is sit around at the back of the hive and just laze around and do nothing.
They don't even defend.
No. No. When there's a fighting swarm, you'll find the males. You'll find all the bees fighting here, and the males will be up here, hoping for a princess to come past. See, during the fighting.
They have one job.
One job. You have one job. They do get kicked out. It's not all fun and games for males. So, in autumn, they will get kicked out. That's pollen. That's all food, yep. That's all their source. Yep.
So you're not putting any of that in there?
No. Ah.
So how long are you going to take them to give yourselves food supply?
What we do is we leave this out, outside. He got inside my eye. We leave them outside the hive for the bees to take from them what they want.
Do they take much, Dan?
They don't take much, and they don't need much. See this in here. If they were to ever use that, which they never will, because there's just way too much there. If they couldn't forage again and they were forced to use all that, that would last them 3 years.
No, 3 years, eh?
Yes, because there's that much in there. They never use that amount.
So will they start building sugar bags then straight away from that?
Yes, instantly. Yeah, they start making new pods. So I'm pretty sure I've got all that brood in there. I don't see if there was any little tiny bits left.
And it's like one of your boxes, once that's full, how long do you reckon that would last if they never foraged again?
Sorry?
One of those full.
One of these.
Yeah. Is that 3 years before you reckon? Supplies?
It probably would be if you were to just to use the bottom. If you were to use just the 2 brood boxes, yeah, they would last 2 years at least without having to forage. If they lived that long, if they, you know, I doubt they ever would. With a view panel. Yep. It's $16.95 a roll.
Is it just temporary until they seal it themselves?
Well, there's 2 reasons why we use this. We want the bees to be able to see any gap between that joint and seal it up. And we don't want there's 2 pests. There's the black soldier fly that people have in their compost heaps, and the stifford fly. The stifford fly is it's a hover fly. It looks like a wasp. It's a mimic, wasp mimic. That's its own defence because so it looks like a wasp, but it cannot sting. It's useless. It cannot. It can't fight. It can't sting. But what they do is they come along and they dab their bum in that joint and they lay their eggs in the joint. Alright? The eggs hatch and maggots get through the joint and slime the hive. So they'll never go through near the entrance, but they'll always go to the cracks. So to stop them, we tape it up and they never get in. Yeah.
And best practice is to keep that off the line.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You just, well, what happened is a bloke in, I think he was in Sydney. Is that the stand? Yep, there it is. We just want to set that up there. Depends if they've got their GPS set right. They'll be back to the box. Yeah, there they go.
And at what point would
See how they're leaving me alone now? Queen's in there.
So you don't want to bother screwing around to look for it and make sure it's in there, just get the outside of it off and then get it in.
90% of the time with TC brood, the queen will be in there. The queen will be in the brood. The rest of the time, you'll see it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You know,
And when would a honey super then go on?
when that's chock-a-block full.
So
If you put a honey super on it too much, it gives them too much room inside the box.
Yeah.
They have too much trouble trying to regulate the temperature and the humidity. So what they'll do is they just seal it off. Because they don't want to use it. It's too much room. They can't control it. That's pollen and that's honey. Yep.
So where would they start building stores?
Straight away.
On top of the brood or like in a corner somewhere?
Yeah, what they do is they put the pollen at the front of the hive, honey at the back of the hive. So yeah, so you see how you've got the pollen here?
Yep.
Alright, and then you'll find there's a bit of honey down here at the bottom. Their top was up here.
And so at some point when you then put the honey super on top,
Yep.
they would remove those pots and put them up there?
No.
Or still keep them?
No, they create new ones. Yeah. So they have, what the idea is that the super is
Is this your
only
container?
for
in there?
access.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So they've stored enough in the brood boxes to keep them going for as long as they need to. they've actually got way too much in the brood boxes.
So we only do that so we can harvest it.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same as honeybees. If you don't take honey from honeybees, they'll swarm
They'll regulate it.
because they get too full.
Oh,
So they swarm and take off.
okay.
These don't swarm.
Okay. They'll regulate themselves.
No, what happens is when they keep on storing more and more and more and more, the brood gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and it gets to a stage where it can no longer perpetuate the hive to keep going, and it dies. Yeah, and we call it, it's called brood collapse disorder. And it's in the worst case scenarios with those is when there's a lot of palm trees. If you've got a hive and you've got a lot of palm trees around, every time, because they're addicted to the palm pollen when they flower, and it's all they produce. Palm trees only produce pollen, and they collect it like it's going out of fashion. You know, if you look up at a palm tree flower, you'll see it covered in natives and Euros. You know, and what happens is they just store too much. And after pollen gets past a certain point, they can no longer use it anymore.
They know to get rid of it, or
No, they can't get rid of it. It stays in the hive. See?
yeah. So it's beneficial to bust them up and
It is.
take all that out.
Yes.
Every now and then.
Yes.
When you do
Well,
that,
see, the thing is, it's not really not beneficial in it as such, but you don't just do it because you want to do it or because you think it needs doing.
It strengthens the hive to
Yeah, you need to know that there's a when we have it, see how we have a view panel on there, we know what's going on inside that box all the time, and you can monitor it. As long as you know what's going on in the box, you can look after it, you can manage it properly, you know, without it suffering any kind of fate.
But if you notice it's completely covered in stores or whatever, you take the panel off, open it up and chip some of that out.
Yeah, it just depends on what stores there is. You know, so if it's excess pollen, then you need to take it out. And there is ways of doing that. So I'll show you how to do that in a minute, because I'm going to do that with Des's. Look at that.
That will be.
See, that's how I like to remove
That's what
stores.
you can actually just eat the bums off those.
Which is the pollen?
90% of that's pollen.
But they're a delicacy in many good. So there's pods. You know,
That's all pollen.
My chickens have it as well.
Yeah.
So break it
There are
down.
ants in there, man.
Get your honey and your pollen out first, and then break it down. Like
What
in
you
the
want
oven
to do
or
is get your honey out first. So you want to separate your honey and your pollen pots. So you just want your honey pots. Right? You extract your honey out of the honey pots, and then you melt your honey pots down to the pollen.
Are you going to show us
So what about the pollen and stuff? You just break the pollen up.
Anything over 5.
That's been there.
5 or 6 farm trees, and you're getting a bit too many. Yeah.
Because this doesn't breathe.
They're going in that box. Yeah.
Also moisture on the outside.
You want me to put it just. Yeah, you want me to set this bit back in there?
For now.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it would be better to put the hay here. Yeah, they are. They
These are good. There's no excess in the seal. Yeah.
Palm trees, yes. When they flower, cut the bloody flowers off. Cut them off straight away. No, get rid of the lot. They don't need it. Now, a native need. What do you want to put it there?
You're right. Ants, they're a bit fly. See those ants? $80 each if you sell them.
Yeah, I'll chuck them in there. I wanted to get this part of the log. I want to get this bit off. Because I want to fill it.
$80. People, like, I went to buy an airplane from my nephew. Couldn't believe the price. Crazy. Wow. No, they're like that. I haven't made it.
You know how much a hand 600 and something the other day. Plant green and tree work.
Wow. So you can get a, like a meat dish. So they go for like $400. Crazy. No, so they
Yeah, if you want to have a look. It's alright.
Yeah, that's what I just.
You can actually get your camera and set it on top of the beer tunnel.
Yeah.
I've always seen it, but I never